You have two ages, and the one most people obsess over is the one that matters least. The number on your driver's license simply counts how many years have passed since you were born, and it moves at the same speed for everyone. No exceptions, no negotiation. But buried inside your cells, written into the chemical structure of your DNA, there is a second age that operates by entirely different rules because this one speeds up when you are stressed, slows down when you eat well and move your body. And according to clinical trials published in some of the most respected journals in medicine, it can actually be pushed backwards in living, breathing human beings using nothing more than food, movement, sleep, and a daily breathing exercise. That idea would have been dismissed as fantasy a decade ago, but it is now the subject of funded, peer-reviewed research at universities including UCLA, USC, Stanford, and Harvard. And the reason it has gained so much traction so quickly is a discovery made in 2013 by a geneticist named Steve Horvath. He found that at 353 specific locations on human DNA, tiny chemical tags called methyl groups are added and removed over the course of a lifetime in a pattern so consistent and so predictable that measuring them can reveal a person's age within about 3.5 years. What made this finding extraordinary was not the accuracy of the clock itself, but the fact that it did not tick at the same rate for everyone. Two people born on the same day could have cellular ages a decade apart, and the person whose clock was running fast turned out to be far more likely to develop heart disease, cancer, dementia, and diabetes, while the person whose clock ran slow was far more likely to stay healthy, stay sharp, and live independently for years longer. Horvath's clock did not just measure time, it measured the rate at which a body was deteriorating, and that immediately raised the most exciting question in modern biology. If the clock could run fast, could it also be made to run in reverse? A team of researchers in Portland, Oregon, set out to answer that question with a properly controlled clinical trial, the kind where participants are randomly assigned to either a treatment group or a control group, so you can tell whether any improvements are genuinely caused by the treatment rather than by coincidence or wishful thinking. They recruited 43 healthy men between the ages of 50 and 72, and for 8 weeks, the treatment group followed a program built around a plant-centered diet rich in dark leafy greens, cruciferous vegetables, beets, eggs, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, berries, rosemary, turmeric, and green tea. Every one of these foods chosen because they contain compounds that directly influence the enzymes responsible for placing and removing methyl tags on DNA. The participants also exercised at moderate intensity for 30 minutes a day, at least 5 days a week, practiced a simple 10-minute breathing exercise twice daily to lower their stress hormones, and slept a minimum of 7 hours each night. After 8 weeks, the researchers measured everyone's cellular age again using the Horvath clock, and the treatment group had become an average of 3.23 years younger at the cellular level compared to the control group, which had changed nothing and aged by about 1.25 years over the same period, exactly as you would expect. The results, published in the journal Aging, were statistically significant, and while the researchers were careful to note that the study was small and needs to be repeated in larger and more diverse populations, it remains the first randomized controlled trial in history to show that diet and lifestyle changes alone can potentially reverse epigenetic aging in healthy adults. What happened next made the finding much harder to dismiss, because an entirely separate line of research, using a completely different approach, arrived at a remarkably similar conclusion. Walter Longo, a longevity researcher at the University of Southern California, who had spent over 20 years studying how fasting affects aging in animal models, had developed something called a fasting mimicking diet. 5 consecutive days per month of low-calorie, plant-based eating, followed by 25 days of completely normal meals, repeated for 3 months. His team had already shown in mice that the fasting phase forces the body to break down old, damaged, and dysfunctional cells through a recycling process called autophagy, and then during the refeeding phase, the body generates fresh replacements, essentially demolishing the worn-out parts and building new ones. When his team tested this protocol across 2 clinical trials involving over 100 human participants and published the results in 2024 in Nature Communications, they found that 3 cycles of the fasting mimicking diet reduced biological age by approximately 2.5 years, as measured by a validated blood marker system that predicts mortality and disease risk. But the age reversal was only part of the story, because participants with fatty liver saw their liver fat drop by nearly 50%. Insulin resistance improved significantly, fasting blood sugar returned to normal in those who had been pre-diabetic, and the ratio of young immune cells to old immune cells shifted in a direction consistent with a younger immune system, meaning the protocol was not just moving a number on a test, but was changing the actual biology of multiple organ systems at the same time. Now, Most people hear the words reverse aging and immediately think about living to extraordinary ages, but that is not what these researchers are focused on. And chasing extreme longevity actually misses the point of what this work means for someone in their 50s, 60s, or 70s right now. What the science is really aimed at is compressing the period of decline at the end of life, keeping people functional, independent, mentally clear, and physically capable for as long as possible so that when decline finally arrives, it is measured in months rather than decades. A Harvard economist calculated that delaying the aging process by just 2.2 years across the general population would save over $7 trillion in healthcare costs over 50 years, not through new drugs or procedures, but simply by keeping people healthy enough to not need them. And the tools that appear capable of producing this delay are not expensive therapies or patented molecules, but the same basic inputs that showed up in both the Portland and USC trials: the right foods, periodic fasting, moderate daily movement, consistent sleep, and daily stress management. The consistency across these studies is what makes the evidence so compelling, because each intervention works through a different biological mechanism, and yet they all push the cellular clock in the same direction. The diet used in the Portland trial supplied methyl donor nutrients from whole foods, folate from greens, betaine from beets, choline from eggs, alongside polyphenols from rosemary, turmeric, and green tea that modulate the enzymes controlling DNA methylation, and the researchers deliberately avoided high-dose supplements like folic acid pills because a growing body of evidence links supplemental forms of these nutrients at high doses with increased cancer risk, while the same compounds from whole food appear to be protective. The fasting mimicking diet triggered autophagy, the body's cellular recycling program, followed by regeneration during refeeding, working through an entirely different pathway from the methylation-focused diet, and yet producing a comparable reduction in biological age. Exercise showed up in virtually every analysis as a significant factor, with a 2025 study confirming that higher physical fitness is associated with measurably slower epigenetic aging across large cohorts, likely because movement improves mitochondrial function, lowers systemic inflammation, enhances insulin sensitivity, and activates repair systems that remain dormant in sedentary people. And stress reduction, which sounds like the softest recommendation on the list, may carry more molecular weight than any of the others because nearly a quarter of the 353 DNA sites on the Horvath clock sit inside regions that respond directly to cortisol, which means chronic stress is not merely a feeling, but a chemical event that physically accelerates the aging of your genome. And a study found that 60 days of twice-daily breathing exercises measurably reduced biological age on a validated epigenetic clock. I want to be honest about something before I close, because the internet is saturated with people selling biological age reversal in a capsule, and you deserve the truth. As of right now, no supplement, or not resveratrol, not NMN, not NAD boosters, not any of the expensive molecules being marketed on social media has been shown in a properly controlled human trial to reverse epigenetic aging. And while some of these compounds are being studied and may eventually show results, the only interventions with published evidence of this effect in randomized human trials are the ones I have just described: whole food nutrition, periodic fasting, moderate exercise, stress management through simple breathing practices, and 7 or more hours of sleep. These are the most powerful anti-aging tools that science has validated to date, and they are available to virtually every person watching this, regardless of income, geography, or medical history, requiring no prescription and no special equipment, just daily consistent decisions about what you eat, how you move, how you breathe, and when you go to bed. For the entire history of our species, aging was understood as a one-way process that could be endured but never reversed, and the idea that it might be otherwise was the territory of myth and wishful thinking. What these studies are beginning to show us, with all the appropriate caution about sample sizes and the need for larger trials, is that your biological age is not a fixed sentence handed down by time, but a living, dynamic reflection of your daily chemistry. And that chemistry is something you influence with every meal you prepare, every walk you take, every night you protect your sleep, and every morning you sit quietly for 10 minutes and let your nervous system settle. Your cells are not keeping score of your past mistakes. They are responding to what you give them right now, and right now, for the first time in human history, published peer-reviewed evidence suggests that what you give them today can make them measurably younger tomorrow. Thank you for watching. And if this meant something to you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it, and I will see you in the next one.